Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be doing a little recap of Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Now this is in perfect timing because the second book, Ruthless Vows, is being released December 28th. It is just a duology, so we have this book and the next book, and that's it. I figured it was a perfect time to recap this book for everyone who may not have a chance to reread and you just kind of want to refresh your memories with all of the little details in Divine Rivals, so that's what we're going to do here today. So Divine Rivals is a World War I retelling. I didn't know that when I first started the book, but after going through it and like reviewing the little details, I could kind of see it. Just get my notes ready. Yeah, girl, I went through the book and I took notes, hoping to hit all the little important details of this book. I will say that reading the book, you're just going to get the full vibe. You're going to understand all the little details that I just can't fit into this YouTube video. The book will always be better. Today, I just plan on hitting the key points, the bare bones of the story. The beginning of the book starts off with Forrest, who is Iris's brother. Iris is the main female character in this story, and we learn that Forrest is being sent off to war. This obviously doesn't make Iris happy. It's just Iris, her brother, and her mom. That's all she has in her life. And at this point, her life just kind of revolves around school and her mom and her brother, and now her brother is being sent off to war, and he thinks that he's just going to be gone for a few months and then he'll be back home and everything will be fine. And then the book actually begins on chapter 1, and it's 5 months forward in the future, where Forrest actually isn't home and Iris hasn't heard anything from Forrest, and in order to continue living, Iris had to drop out of school and get a job as a journalist at Oath's Gazette. At Oath's Gazette, I'm just going to call it Gazette. At the Gazette, she's competing for a columnist position against Roman Kidd. Those are the two people, so there's two people qualified for this position. Iris Winnow and Roman Kidd. And they are rivals. Anyway, besides the point, I think this title, I'm sidetracking here. I think this title is so perfect for the contents in the book. It just makes so much sense. It's such a good title for the book. I digress. Continuing on, they kind of have to compete on writing different articles every week, or every so often they have to write articles, and whoever by the end of the certain time period, whoever has the most ratings or the best articles will win the columnist position. There's two main news sources, and it's the Oath Gazette and the Ink-Written Tribune. The Oath Gazette is kind of more conservative with their writing. There's this whole big war that's going on, but the Oath Gazette doesn't really want to cover the war. And then the Ink Tribune, they want to get out all the nitty-gritty information about the war. So that's kind of where they differ. Now, the war itself is against two gods, Dacre and Enva. So Forrest, Iris's brother, was called into war by Enva. They said if you heard Enva's music playing, she plays a harp, if you heard it, that means she's calling you to fight the war between Dacre. Some people think Dacre is the bad guy, some people think Enva's the bad guy. The more the story progresses, the more you kind of start to piece it together yourself, and we'll get there, boo-boo. They're close to the end of this competition between whoever is going to get the columnist position. Roman actually got his hands on the last assignment, so he's writing it. Iris kind of gets wind on what the last article is going to be about, and that's when she learns that there's war correspondents going missing at the front lines. And then she starts to get super worried about her brother, Forrest, because she hasn't heard anything from him, and it's very unlike her brother to not even write a letter letting her know that, you know, he made it there, that he's safe or whatever. She hasn't heard anything from her brother since he's left. And now this new article that is supposed to be written about missing war correspondent, the missing soldiers at the front line, has her worried. So Roman got the article, but now Iris is starting to do her own research, hoping that she can find more information, at least for her brother's sake. Now, let's talk about Iris's mom. She's kind of down bad. She's not in a good place mentally. She's kind of scared, in my opinion, that she's going to lose her son. He's off at war and she's kind of losing a grip on herself. She became an alcoholic. She's not really working as many hours as she had, so that's why Iris had to drop out of school and get her own job to help keep their household running. Iris feels very isolated at this point in her life. She's kind of competing for this columnist position. She doesn't know if she's going to be qualified for it. Her brother has gone off to war. She hasn't heard anything from him. She's very worried about him, and now there's missing soldiers at the front lines, and her mom is an alcoholic and is just really down bad. She's like really going through some kind of depression, and she doesn't even really recognize her mom anymore. But there's one outlet that she has, and it's typing letters to her brother as if he was going to read them. So she would come home and kind of, you know, vent out everything that's happening into her life on her typewriter, and she would put it in her wardrobe. Now, this is kind of an old tradition that her grandmother would used to do. She learned from her grandmother that, you know, you type your letter and you put it in the wardrobe. That just is kind of what she would do. And then she started to realize that when she was putting the letters in the wardrobe, that they would disappear. And she was just kind of like, whatever, you know, it is what it is. She didn't really think about where the letters were going, but she did it for months. Until one night, she was typing her heart out to Forrest. She puts it in the wardrobe, and this night, she actually got a letter back. And on the letter, it said, "This isn't Forrest." And that's when we cut to Roman's point of view. When Roman is just chilling in his bedroom and he gets all these letters from his wardrobe from someone he doesn't know. Well, at first he didn't know, but the more letters he got, the more he started to piece together, and he knew that he was getting letters from Iris. But this one night, I guess he felt kind of bad and was just like, this isn't Forrest. And then this is kind of where they start communicating through the typewriters. At first, it was just kind of like a, oops, sorry, didn't realize that these letters were actually going to someone. My bad, I'll stop messaging you. And Roman was like, no, please don't stop on my account. If you know you need to get this off your chest, keep sending your letters, because these letters were kind of something that Roman would look forward to, because Roman is also kind of going through a hard place in his life. Now, things about Roman. He is working at the Gazette, not because he wants to, but he's doing it in hopes to please his father, who is kind of a bigger name. Roman comes from a more wealthy background, a richer background. His father was the founder of the railroads all through the town, and he is trying to maintain some sort of status, and to please his father, he, instead of going to college for literature, he works at the Gazette. Roman comes home from work one day when his father calls him into dinner. At this dinner, Roman finds out that his father now expects him to marry Eleanor Little. Eleanor Little is the daughter of Mr. Little, who is buddy-buddy with Roman's father. And he is kind of like a chemist. He's creating some kind of secret project. Roman's like, oh my god, I don't want to marry this lady. Like, Dad, don't make me do that. And he really doesn't have much say, because his dad is like, I don't really care what you think. You're going to marry Eleanor Little, and it's going to be the betterment for our family and the status that we have in this world. Okay, son? I don't care what you think. This is what you're gonna do. And Roman's like, well, gosh darn. He doesn't really have a say. He finds out that his father is trying to get it announced in the newspaper of his engagement. That's when Iris finds out that Roman is engaged. So she goes up to Roman and she's like, oh, you know, I don't really know that much about you. You are my rival, but I guess congratulations on your engagement. And he's like, well, shit, I guess everyone knows now that I'm engaged. I'm not happy about it, but thanks, I guess. Something you should know about Roman's daddy is he is a daiquiri supporter. He supports daiquiri. He thinks like Inva is not really that good and daiquiri is actually the good god, okay? I think Iris kind of knows that Roman's not really feeling that good, and Iris isn't really feeling that good, and they both are trying to write some kind of article, soldiers going missing. So Iris just kind of offers to help Roman. And I think Iris at this point has been trying to be some kind of friends with Roman, but Roman hasn't entertained it at all. She's asked him to go get lunch, sandwiches, once or twice before this, and she asked him again, like, hey, if you need help on this article, we can go get some sandwiches and I'll talk to you about my brother, because my brother's missing at the war and that's the article that we were supposed to be writing. Reluctantly, Roman agrees and he meets Iris for sandwiches, and that's when they start talking. And Roman starts to realize that maybe he has more in common with Iris than he was originally thinking. They kind of have like this almost a heart-to-heart where Iris is telling Roman about her missing brother and just kind of giving him pointers on how to be more relatable to the people that you're interviewing, because Roman is kind of at this point in the story very like straightforward, very like blunt, not very personable, and I think that's just because he's so like in a trance and just doing everything that everyone has told him to do, and he's not really, his heart's not in it because it really isn't. And I think this conversation with Iris kind of really starts to open his eyes that he's not living his life for him, he's living it to please other people. Either way, they go their separate ways after this conversation. Iris goes back home and she realizes that her mom isn't home yet. And it's very unlike her mom, but she thought maybe she was just running late at work. Maybe she picked up extra hours and that's okay. She went to bed, she woke up, her mom still was at home. She was kind of concerned, but she had to be at work. You know, she's trying to get this position for the betterment for both of them so they can both afford to live. Iris is working on obituaries when someone comes up to her and asks her if she can squeeze in another obituary of a woman who got hit by a train, and that the body hadn't been identified yet, and they were kind of putting it out in the newspaper like, if you have a missing loved one, please come identify them. And obviously this doesn't sit well with Iris because her mother is missing, and so she goes to identify the body and it is her mother who got hit by a train. So now at this point Iris is all by herself. She doesn't know where her brother is. She can't talk to him. She doesn't even know if he's alive. Her mother just passed away, and all she really has going for her is this calmest position that I don't even think that she really even cares about to have the job. So she's obviously like grief struck. So after she identified the body, she didn't even bother to return back to work. She just went to her apartment and was just really trying to process everything. She gets a knock at the door. She opens it and it's Roman. Roman is checking in on Iris to make sure that she's okay because he noticed that she never returned back to work. And Iris doesn't really want to tell him what she's going through. She's like, yeah, I'm sorry, you know, I'm just not feeling good. I think I'm sick. And Roman noticed that Iris left her jacket at work, so he gave her back her jacket. The next day, Iris was late for work. She's kind of disheveled. She's not herself. Obviously, she's going through a lot. Whenever the boss calls both Roman and Iris into the office, and he's like, all right, I've made my decision. Roman wins the columnist. His last article was the best article, the article that Iris helped him write. And Iris was like, okay, you know what, that's fine. But Roman was like, actually, you know, that's not fair. Her mother just passed away. And Iris is like, what? How'd you know that? And he was like, I read the obituaries. And she was like, no one reads the damn obituaries. And she was like, you know what? No, Roman, you win. I'm actually going to dip out of here. I quit. I don't want this job no more. Now, something I forgot to mention before this, when Iris was out and about, she found a newspaper article from the Ink-Ridden Tribune saying that there was monsters being spotted on the front lines of the war. Also, they're looking for war correspondents, journalists who are willing to go to the front lines of this war and kind of write back and explain everything that's happening at the front lines. Now remember, there's two newspaper outlets, the Gazette and the Ink-Ridden Tribune. The Gazette doesn't like to publish a lot of things on the war. They think the people don't need to know the details of the war. Whatever is happening out there, that's you know, that's out there. That's their problem. That's not our problem. The Ink-Ridden Tribune is on the other stance of it, that just because this war is out there doesn't mean that it may not find its way here one day, and the people need to know everything that's happening on the front lines. Now, Iris just quit her job. She doesn't want to work there no more. She thinks she has nothing left to lose. She doesn't know where the hell her brother is, and the only idea that she has to find more information on where Forrest is to work as a war correspondent for the Ink-Ridden Tribune. So that's exactly what she does. She goes in, she does an interview, and they're like, all right, when can you leave? Tonight? Perfect. So she quite literally packs up all her stuff. She types a letter in her typewriter. She doesn't know she's typing to Roman, but she was like, you know, this has been fun talking to you. I'm actually skedaddling. I'm going out of town. I'm going to not be able to talk to you for a few days. Please don't worry. There's a letter instantly back, and Roman, she doesn't know it's Roman, was like, where are you going? Just tell me where you're going. And she doesn't respond. Gets on the train, taking them to where she's going, and she meets Addie. Addie is another war correspondent going to the exact same location that Iris is going. They quickly become friends. Addie is trying to prove to the people in her life who told her that she was never going to really amount to anything as a journalist. So she's going as a war correspondent to kind of rub it in their face that she does have what it takes. They arrive to a city right outside of the front lines around the middle of the night. And they're kind of walking, and they're noticing that things are really quiet. The houses are boarded up. There's just this eerie feeling going to where they're supposed to be staying during this time. They find the house, and that's where we meet Marisol. That's where we meet Marisol. Now, Marisol is like this badass lady living in her house holding down the fort, okay? She's helping in every way that she can, and that's why she's housing war correspondents to make them dinner, and that's where we learn about the sirens. So this is like, we start to realize that, you know, people don't know what's happening at the front line. There's these two gods battling it out on the front lines. 3 sirens that they need to prepare for: the hounds, the erythrials, and get the hell out of town. Those are the 3 that we're looking out for. The next day they go to the infirmary, and the next day they go to the infirmary, fuck! The next day they go to the infirmary, fuck me! The next day they go to the infirmary. You know what? This is what I'm trying to say. And Iris starts asking around about her brother. These people are the people that he's supposed to be at war with, fighting Dacre with, and they're like, and she's asking, have you seen Forrest? And someone tells her, you know, you need to message his commander to see if they have more information. And that's exactly what Iris does. She sends a letter out to their commander. At the same time, she sends another letter through her typewriter, and she's like wondering, you know, she's not at home with her own wardrobe, but maybe this wardrobe will do the same thing. So she types out a letter and sends it under. Iris doesn't know she's talking to Roman. Roman knows he's talking to Iris, but they're starting to really open up to each other during these letters. We learn some dark things about Roman's past. Iris is kind of communicating with him, helping him through it. And just as Roman is helping Iris through his own griefs, they're really starting to become pretty close through these letters. Roman starts to feel a little bad that Iris doesn't know that she's talking to Roman, but Roman is almost okay with that because he doesn't want her to stop. He's happy that she's at least talking to him, and he kind of low-key is starting to like her. So when she writes this letter to him and he receives it, he's like, oh my fucking god, I'm so happy you're okay. And he's like, well, where did you go? And she was like, oh, I'm a war correspondent. And Roman writes back, you're at war? Why did you go to war? And Iris is like, not expecting that response. During this time, Iris is also trying to find out why the hell there's a war in the first place between Dacre and Inva. So let's talk about Dacre and Inva and why the hell are they beefing? The myths have it that there are 2 families that divide the gods The skywards and the underlings. The skywards ruled above and the underlings reigned below. He's pretty much just bored one day and he asks a human, who is the most beloved skyward god or goddess? Let me know, because I kind of just want to like talk to him. And that's when the human tells Dacre that Inva is the fairest, most beloved skyward god. And Dacre was like, where can I find this Inva? And the human was like, hell if I know. She's supposed to be found in places that you're not really suspecting. And Dacre is like, Dacre kind of becomes a madman hunting for Inva. And he sends out his ethereals and his hounds. And he's tearing up the town, killing all these innocent peoples, looking for Inva when Inva appears one day. And she's like, what's up? Why are you doing this? Why are you wreaking havoc on all of these innocent people? And Dacre's like, I just want to talk to you. He's like, I just want to talk to you. You want to come with me down to the underworld? And she's like, no, I'm happy where I am. Why would I want to go down with you? And he was like, well, if you come down with me, we'll forge peace between our two families, the underlings and the skywards, and everything will be fine. And Inva was like, damn, you know, I feel like if I tell you no, he's just going to just keep killing all these innocent people. So she agrees to go down to the underworld with Dacre. She's not really happy about it, but she goes down there with him. During the time that she's down there with him, Dacre, Inva is known for playing the harp, as I mentioned earlier. She's really good at it. It really draws people in. It's kind of mesmerizing. And she kind of has this ability with her harp to draw people in and kind of put them in some kind of trance. So Dacre is like, Inva, please play for my people your harp. And she's like, okay. So she plays her harp and she's like tired of it. So she plays her harp to put everyone to sleep. And she has the ability to put everyone to sleep for a long fucking time, okay? They are like down sleeping. I think it was for a few days. It was the first time that she did it. The second time that Dacre wanted her to play her harp for everyone, because he was like, everyone loved it. That shit was amazing. Play your harp again. She did. She played her harp again. But this time, Dacre never woke up from his slumber. She put him to sleep, girl. She put him to sleep. And she escaped. She went back to her, you know, her normal life, doing her thing. Dacre had just woken up. That's the reason for this war. Dacre woke up and he realized that he's been sleeping for so damn long because Inva tricked him. He just woke up. He feels betrayed. He wants Inva back. He had an agreement with her. You come down with me and we are at peace. You're no longer with me. You betrayed me. We are at war. I'm doing everything that I did before. So the reason why he's releasing the ethereals and the hounds is because he's looking for Inva. Inva we don't know where she is. We don't know where Inva is. Inva played her musical harp, and if you heard the musical harp, she's calling you to fight in the war against Dacre, like Forrest. Forrest was called into war by Inva's harp. So Iris is at the front lines. She's this war correspondent. She's still talking to Roman on her typewriter, letting him know all of these details that's going on. They start to get to know each other, little things about each other, without actually saying who each person is. But Iris is like, you know, whoever you are, mystery person, I know a lot of details about you, but I just don't know your name. So what's your name? What can I call you? Roman is Roman Carver Kit. So he tells Iris to call him by his middle name, Carver. During this time that they're just kind of waiting to be sent off to the front lines of the war, Iris writes an article for the Ink-Written Tribune that actually gets published on the front pages. Roman finds it. He's so happy and so proud of her because she did it. She's on the front lines of a newspaper column, and that's kind of what she's been working for at this time. Also, someone comes in trying to get a war correspondent to the front lines of the war. Addie volunteers to go first. So Addie goes to the front lines. Iris is kind of just chilling with Maricel, kind of helping her do things around the house. Iris is still communicating through her typewriters. Now, there's something special about these typewriters. They are called, and please forgive me, Lord knows I suck at pronouncing fancy words, the owlet. The owlet. Aletti. Roman is up one night, and we learn from Roman's grandmother, because Roman is up one night waiting to hear back from Iris during their typewriter talks, and Roman got his typewriter from his grandmother, and Roman's like, I'm waiting to hear from someone, and his grandmother was like, who you talking to? Who you talking to through these typewriters? And Roman's like, what you talking about? You know? And she was like, duh, I know, there's 3 of them in existence, and they were all created for me and my 2 friends. So there's 3 little girls. One little girl got sick, so her daddy tried to discover ways that she could still talk to her friends. So he created these typewriters to be able to communicate with each other. So there's one typewriter that is in a museum, and there's the 2 other typewriters. One Iris has, one Roman has, and they both belonged to their grandmother before they were passed down to them. Addie comes back from war, and she's like, that shit was crazy. You don't even know what you're gonna see when you go down there. She's like, you know, I can only imagine how traumatic it is going to war. Iris keeps talking to Roman through these typewriters. Now, I wish I could tell you everything that they were talking about. I think this is the cutest aspect of the book, the little communications that they have through the typewriters. And you can just slowly tell throughout the book that they're starting to fall in love with each other. And it's just so cute. One day, Iris is just chilling with Addie, and a siren starts to go off. It's during the daytime, and if we remember, if you hear a siren during the daytime, it's because the Ethereals, the Wyverns, are coming to drop bombs on a bitch. So they hear the sirens, and they're about to start boarding up everything when Iris looks out into the field, and she sees someone who looks completely unbothered. He's just walking like he doesn't have a care in the world, and she's like, is that fucking Roman Kit? Because it was Roman Kit. He's walking there with his typewriter, and Iris is like, what the flying fuck? Roman doesn't know about these sirens. So she runs out of the house. Addie is like, girl, don't you do that. Don't you, what are you doing? Iris tackles Roman to the ground. Roman is like, Iris, it's so good to see you too. And Iris is like, shut the fuck up, Roman. Stop talking. We're in danger. Don't move, don't talk, don't say nothing. And they're just kind of laying on top of each other. Roman told his daddy he wasn't gonna marry who his daddy told him he wasn't gonna marry no Eleanor Little, and he was tired of working as this journalist that he didn't even want to do, and he was going to start living his life for it. He really likes Iris, and he wants to go to her. So he drops everything. He goes to the front lines of a war for Iris. Iris doesn't know this. Iris doesn't even know that she's been talking to Roman this whole time, okay? And she thinks that Roman is at this war to outshine her again. She's like, damn, you know, you winning the columnist position wasn't enough. You have to come to the front lines, what, to outshine me here? Kit has been there for a few days, kind of getting acquainted. Kit and Iris, it's like this new weird dynamic. Roman is being nicer to her. They're not necessarily rivals anymore, but they're still communicating as they normally have through these typewriters, and through the typewritten letters they're really starting to get close. But Iris doesn't know it's Roman. Roman knows it's Iris. Roman is low-key in love with Iris at this point. So it's been a few days since he's been there. Roman is working on something, and he comes down to Addie and Iris working in the garden, and he asks if they know of any synonyms for the word sublime. Addie says, what about the word transcendent? And then he's like, okay, thanks, Addie. What about you, Iris? Do you have any synonyms for sublime? And she says, what about divine? And Roman's like, okay, thanks. And then he goes off and he keeps working on his article. Shortly after this happens, a commander shows up and he's looking for more correspondents to go down to the front lines to report back to the ink-ridden Tribune. Now, Addie just went to the front lines, so now it's Iris's turn. So she volunteers, but Roman's like, girl, you're not going nowhere without me. If she goes, I go. But the commander is like, actually, we only have room for only one correspondent this trip. You can go the next time. And Roman's like, that just won't do. I'll literally squeeze in anywhere you can fit me. If Iris is going, I'm also going too. Roman and Iris go up to their room and they're packing just a few things that they can take down, a journal, maybe a change of clothes that they can take with them to the front lines. That's when Iris noticed that there's a letter from Carver. She picks it up. She kind of starts to read it, but Roman knocks on the door and he's like, all right, Iris, you ready to go down to the front lines? She's like, oh yeah, I'll just put this in my pocket and save it for later. On their trip to the front lines, it's pretty much a tight squeeze and Iris had to sit in Roman's lap. Girl, I'm gonna eat it up. They get to the front lines. They're getting introduced to everyone there. The next day, they start working through the trenches of the front lines where it is an active war zone between Daiquiri and Enva. What's really good is chapter 30, Notes of the Trenches, and this is from Iris. She's kind of writing what it's like to be on the front lines of war, and I thought that chapter was pretty beautiful and really good. So they're kind of marching all day and they get to the point where they can rest, and Iris is laying down and she remembers that she has this letter in her bag from Carver, and she's thinking like, oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and read it. However, she gets a little bit into reading the letter when she gets something thrown at her head. And she realizes it's a piece of paper. She looks up and Roman is staring at her. She opens the piece of paper and Roman's trying to talk to her via this note. It's like being back in middle school again, you know, passing notes in the classroom, hoping the teacher doesn't catch you. That's the kind of vibes it gives off. So one afternoon, everything kind of goes to shit. And the Ethereals come out and they start dropping bombs. The commander who is there over charge of this troop is telling Iris and Roman to run, get the hell out of town, get to safety, just run out of this area. It's no longer safe for war correspondents. So that's exactly what they do. When they're running, they kind of meet bad timing with a bomb, kind of get blown away with the aftershocks of the bomb. Now, Roman is hurt during this encounter with the bomb. He hurt his leg and Iris is there and she's trying to help the best that she can. Roman is telling Iris, please grab my bag, please just grab my bag and run out of here, leave me here. And Iris is like, the fuck, I'm not. Iris is like, over my dead body, I'm gonna leave you here. We came here together, we are in this together, we are getting out of this together. And Roman's like, just grab my bag, please. So she grabs his bag and she's helping him get to safety. Eventually she does. She puts him on the next truck out to get them to the hospital. And Iris kind of runs back, seeing if she can help anyone else get to any more trucks. And she's on the last trip out of there. When Iris finally gets back from the front lines, she remembers that Roman really wanted Iris to grab his bag. And she still had his bag. So she's kind of curious why. And she looks through it. She discovers every single note that she has sent Carver through the typewriter in Roman's bag. And she's like, now Roman at this time is in the hospital trying to heal from, you know, being exploded by a bomb. And she's like, oh my God, I've been talking to Roman. Roman has known he's been talking to me this whole time. What does this mean? And at first she feels kind of betrayed. And I try to put myself in her situation. It would probably rub me the wrong way too if I discovered this. And she's like, I need to talk to Roman. So she goes to the hospital where Roman is, and he's hooked up to IVs, got oxygen on, his leg is pretty down bad. And she walks in and Roman's like, did you look through my bag? And she's like, mm-hmm. And he's like, so you know? And she's like, mm-hmm. And he gets up and he's like trying to get closer to her and give her a hug, give her a little kiss. And she's like, I'm so, Roman, explain yourself. What is happening here? And he's like, it's been me the whole time. Just didn't know how to tell you because you really made me feel some type of way and I wanted to keep talking to you. And I thought that if you knew it was me, you wouldn't want to keep talking to me no more. So I was trying to play it down. I was just trying to keep talking to you, but then at some point I really started to catch feelings for you and it started to feel wrong, and I didn't know how to tell you that it was me, so I sent the final letter to you. The letter that Iris found on her floor when the commander came to take them down to the front lines. That was the final letter that Roman wrote to Iris, confessing it was him. And this is how he says, I want to know everything about you, Iris. I want to know your hopes and your dreams, and I want to know what irritates you and what makes you smile and what makes you laugh, and what you long for most in the world. But perhaps even more than that, I want you to know who I am. If you could see me right now as I type this, you would smile. No, you would probably laugh to see how badly my hands are shaking, because I want to get this right. I wanted to get this right for weeks now, but the truth is I don't know how, and I'm worried what you might think. It's odd how quickly life can change, isn't it? How one little thing like typing a letter can open a door you never saw, a transcendent connection, a divine threshold. But if there's anything I should say in this moment, when my heart is beating wildly in my chest, I would beg you to come and tame it, is this. Your letters have been the light for me to follow. Your words, a sublime feast for me to feed on days when I'm starving. I love you, Iris, and I want you to see me. I want you to know me. Through the smoke and the firelight and the kilometers that once dwelled between us, do you see me? Oh my God, that's so good. Oh my God! That's the letter that Iris was trying to read when she was in the trenches, and Roman kind of interrupted her because he was thinking like, damn, now's not the time to read this letter. And those are like the synonyms that he was asking for: transcendent, divine, sublime. Just so good. But this is kind of a lot for Iris to take in. You know, she's like, you should have told me. Staring at each other, she doesn't know how she feels. Roman ends up kissing Iris. It's so sweet, it's so cute, but Iris still isn't feeling good about it, so she ends up leaving the hospital, leaves him there for a few days. Roman eventually comes home with his boo-boo leg. It's bandaged up, stitched up, and they're just trying to heal from. Iris and Roman are trying to heal from being from the front lines, experiencing that trauma, and now with this weirdness in the air between them, Addie and Marisol are just trying to, go on about their day. They're just trying to survive the day to day. And Iris eventually does talk to Roman about everything. She does eventually come around. She understands, she gets it, and she still is feeling these feelings for Carver, who is now Roman, and she was starting to like Roman, and now she's trying to merge the two, Carver and Roman, together. Now she's like, Roman, what you could do to make me feel better about this is read this final letter to me in person. Read it to me right here and right now. And he does. He's like, okay, girl, if that's what you need, I'll do that for you. And he reads the letter, and it's just the sweetest moment in the world. And Roman is just like, I love this girl. I don't want to waste no more time. I gave up everything. I left my family. I left my job for this lady. I want her. And he asked her to marry her, and she was like, yeah, Roman, I'll marry you. There's one thing that I feel like I'm not doing a good job at in this video, is describing the sweetness and the innocence of the relationship that forms in this book. It is so cute. I remember reading this book for the first time, and I have a before, during, and after on my TikTok. It's under the if you go on the top of my TikTok and click on the before, during, and afters, you can scroll until you find the Divine Rivals one. The main thing I was saying while reading this book is the fact that their love story is just so cute. It's so good. It's just feel good and cozy and warm, and I love the development between Roman and Iris, and I think that's just something that you have to read the book to fully experience. They kind of carry on, you know, there's still war correspondence going on about their day. Whenever Iris is working on something in the kitchen, whenever someone barges in the house. Now this is Keegan. Keegan is a commander at war who also happens to be Maricel's wife. Now Keegan hasn't talked to Maricel in a long time. Maricel was worried about Keegan just the same way that Iris is still worried about Forrest. And she comes in and she was like, "Where's my wife?" And they're like, "Who are you?" And she's like, "I'm Keegan. Who are you?" And she's like, "I'm Iris." And she was like, "What? Iris what?" She said, "Iris Winnow." And she was like, "Oh, Iris, I have this letter from Forrest," because they were actually on the front lines together, Keegan and Forrest. So that's when Iris learns that Forrest was injured at war and he's been transferred to some other unit. She's like, "Oh my God, my brother is still alive." But Keegan is like, "Okay, girl, I'm so happy for you. We actually got to evacuate immediately. Daiquiri is moving the front lines into this city, so we have to go ASAP." And so they're preparing the dash packs that Maricel had prepared for them, and they're just trying to be like, "Okay, do we have to leave right now, or like when will Daiquiri be here?" And she's like, "Well, we could probably stay the night, but we definitely have to leave in the morning for sure, get out of town." So they're kind of scrambling, getting everything together. They step out of the house for a second. When they come back in, they notice that there's footprints everywhere, all over the floor, and they're like, "Who brought their muddy footprints into the house?" And they notice that one of the dash packs is missing, and they're like, "That's weird. Why? Well, that's so strange." And they thought maybe just someone was panicking and ran in the house and grabbed one of the dash packs. So they are preparing one last dinner together in Avian Bluff whenever Roman comes down to the kitchen and he's freshly showered. And Iris is like, "You showered? Like, you thought now was a good time to shower?" And Addie was like, "Actually, yeah, now is a good time to shower because, you know, we are evacuating tomorrow. So Iris, it's your turn to go shower. You go shower now ASAP." And she's like, wait, let's prepare one last dinner together." And they're like, "Nope, Iris, you go shower." So they kind of force her into the shower. When she gets out, Addie is there and she has her this nice, cute little outfit. And she's like, "You should probably put this on." And Iris is like, "What's happening? What's going on?" And Addie said, "Roman Kit is waiting for you in the garden to marry you." Oh, it's just so sweet. They're just, before chaos ensues, Roman is like, "I'm going to marry this girl no matter what. I want to have one last good night with her before who the hell knows what's going to happen." So they get married and they spend the night together, and the next morning they wake up, and this is when Roman realizes that one of his uniforms is missing and that he doesn't know what happened to it. And Iris is like, "That's weird, whatever. Let's get everyone loaded up into the cars and let's get the hell out of here." Whenever they're doing this, shit kind of hits the fan and the ethereals come out and they're dropping bombs. Or they thought they were bombs. They're not actually bombs. They're smoke bombs. So there's no explosions, but there's a shit ton of smoke everywhere. Iris is kind of freaking out. She loses sight of Roman. She can't see him, and it's just chaos. It's pure chaos. Iris is trying to get her shit together whenever someone comes up and kind of is like, "Iris, come on, we need to go." She turns around and she sees Forrest's name tag on his uniform and a dash pack, but he has a gas mask on. And she's like, "Where'd you get that gas mask?" And he was like, "They're passing them out. We need to go out of here." And she's like, "Wait, does anyone need help? Are you sure we need to leave?" And Roman is like, "Yeah, Iris, we need to get the hell out of here." Whenever she's close to getting in the truck, she hears someone call her name, "Iris!" She turns around and Roman Kit is standing in the middle of a field. And she's like, "Huh? Huh? Roman? Who are you? Who are you?" And that's whenever she gets knocked out. And she's put into a car, and Roman is left there on the front lines with Dacre invading into the city. We cut forward to where Iris is back in her old apartment where she used to live with her mom, and she discovers who was wearing Roman's uniform, and it was her brother, Forrest. He came in and took Iris from the front lines, and she was like, how did you get there? How did you know that was going to happen? Why didn't you help? What's going on? And that's when we learn that Forrest is no longer fighting for Enva. He's fighting for Dacre. Two things that... Okay, so here's the major points that I think we need to remember for the next book, because I think it's going to be more centered around Dacre and Enva. So the war that's going on is between Dacre and Enva. Enva put Dacre in this really long slumber so that she could escape back to her life. Dacre had just woken up, and that's the reason for the current war. Dacre is looking for Enva. Remember that there's the Gazette and the Tribune. Oath doesn't like to publish anything about the war unless it's supporting Dacre. Now, the counselor is in the pocket. The counselor is on the same side as the Gazette, and also so is Roman's dad. Roman's dad is buddy-buddy with the main publisher of the Gazette. And that's interesting because if we remember, Roman's dad is in control of the railroads, and he's working, and his best friend, Mr. Little, is a chemist who's creating this new creation. Roman was supposed to marry Eleanor, Mr. Little's daughter. So there's this big kind of weird connection going on here. My thinking is that Roman's dad and Mr. Little have more to do in this war with Dacre. They're Dacre supporters. I think Mr. Little is supplying Dacre with the bombs, and how they're getting them to the front lines is through the railways that Roman's dad is in control of. Iris is chilling in her room, and she's like trying to process everything, what's happening, when she gets a letter through her wardrobe, and it says, Iris, it's me, Kit. Now, something about this letter rubs me the wrong way. I don't know if I really think it's Roman, because here's my thinking. If you are like separated by this big tragic event that just happened, and you have a chance to communicate with your wife, are you going to say, it's me, Kit? The fuck? I know it's you. Obviously it's going to be you. You're the only person who knows how these typewriters work. What do you mean it's you, Kit? So I'm thinking maybe it's not Kit and it's someone else. I think the next book is going to be more fantasy focused. That's my guess. It is just a duology, so Ruthless Vows. So it's going to be Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, and that's it. The story wraps up with the Ruthless Vows. So I'm super interested to see how this next book is going to go. I'm very excited. I hope Roman and Kit get reunited quickly. So I think that's everything. I hope I hit all the key points, and for the people who don't have time to reread, I hope this refreshes your memory. If you haven't read Divine Rivals and you made it through this book, please read the book. This video doesn't do the book justice. I'm just hitting the key points, the bare points. To know the vibe, to know the true vibe of the book, you just have to read it, and I'm heavily encouraging you to do so. That's all I have for you today. I look forward to reading Ruthless Vows with everyone on the Book Talk community. I love you. Thank you for being here, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.